Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mining Conversation with MsTedy, and this is the Mining Indaba edition where we are in Cape Town, and we're going to be speaking to a few people who are in attendance, and they're just going to tell us their role in the mining industry, what they're doing to improve the mining industry of South Africa, and. With that being said, I'd like to thank my team that is supporting me from home. That's Shweni, Siltake, Kamu, Malangabi, and Tepo Munyamani, as well as my makeup artist. She's not here, but I've learned a thing or two from her. I did my makeup myself today, and that's Nkele Khadebe. So today I am joined by Hurtmut Brodner from the CSIR, and he's the head of Mining Technical Solution. Is that correct? Wonderful. So he's going to be speaking to us about the role of CSIR in the mining industry. He's also going to be telling us more about what he's doing and how we can then make sure that the mining industry in South Africa gets better, especially as technology is concerned. So with that, hi, how are you? Are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful.
Trying to balance between you and the camera.
That's fine. So tell me, how's your experience so far in the mining industry?
So my experience so far has been good. It's a lot of people, a lot of interest, both from public sector and private sector, which is very good to see. Attendance, I think, is very strong. By the time we registered, I think they mentioned it was like 6,000 people registered, and they were intending to see about a total of 12,000.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite a good attendance.
So did you come this morning or you arrived last night?
So arrived last night, and queues weren't that bad, but by the time we had registered, they said 6,000.
Yeah.
And I think the energy that we're feeling here is very much an energy of wanting to do things the right way, and people wanting to have conversations around, potential collaborations, especially when it comes to an organization like us, CSIR. So that's the energy we're feeling at the moment, which is lovely.
Wonderful. So can you take me through your position as the head of Mining Technical Solution? What is it that you do?
So let me then start with CSIR. So CSIR stands for the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We are one of a handful of science councils within South Africa.
Okay.
And we are a multidisciplinary science council. What that means is we support multiple industries within South Africa. So mining is a core function that we support, but we also support manufacturing, agriculture, chemistry, things like digital transformation and so forth. So CSIR has about 2,200 staff, which is quite considerable. And of that, about 75% of that staff complement are technical.
Oh, okay.
We've got very strong technical experts locally and globally. And we've got a very encouraging, competent, diverse workforce, which is lovely. So if you actually look at some of our statistics, it tells a very good story, and we're very much in support of that. Now, within the CSIR, as I mentioned, we've got a mining-focused function, and that is something that I work within. Our executive and our leader is a lady called Bongi, and she leads the mining team. Very capable lady. And essentially under Bongi we've got two, what we call in the CSIR, impact areas, but you can almost see them as two businesses. The one area is really around compliance, safety and compliance. Now what we do there is we do a variety of things. One, from a compliance point of view, for mine winders, we've got these steel ropes that lower cages for people and goods and materials. We actually test the strength of those every once in a while up to failure. So we basically can tell you if the ropes that you're using are good, not so good, or you need to replace them. Then another compliance function is self-contained self-rescue. So whenever you go underground, you've got a little apparatus that is a emergency device that will give you, depending on your fitness levels, depending on yourself, about 20 to 30 minutes of breathable air if there is any emergency underground. So we do compliance testing on those units, and then we do any sort of pushing and pulling for sort of support technology for underground mining operations. And then the last element is really around training, awareness training for coal mining operations, where we look at coal dust explosions as a serious occurrence. The second portion is the area that I look after, which I would describe as sort of the knowledge function, in the sense of we apply human capital, our expertise, the talented individuals to solve various problems. Now, because we're a science council, we focus on future-looking issues, but also trying to solve complex challenges, technical challenges in the mining industry. And what we do there is a combination of technical advisory, and what we do there is some technology development as well. So we do both in that area. So yeah, that's what we broadly do, and we do this across a few thematic areas. So one focus area is digital automation. So that's an area that we have a focus in. We've got a focus in sustainability. We've got a focus on mining extraction, and we've got also another focus area in sort of rock engineering, geotechnical work. And the digital automation essentially sits across those other technical functions to support that.
So if you can just expand on that, because I hear a lot of mining companies, even I just attended the tech and innovation talk.
Yeah.
So they were talking a lot about the role of AI in improving the mining industry. How can you just take us through that in terms of how AI can improve the mining industry, especially in South Africa, and making sure that it gets improved basically?
So AI is interesting. AI, as you guys may have done previous segments on, is very reliant on data. You're getting data into the system and then being able to interpret and correlate and compare data sets. Now, if we take a step back, what's very important to enable AI is to make sure that you are firstly monitoring important aspects of the various mining steps, and that you are collecting enough data across a certain value chain. So the first question is are you well instrumented enough to be able to collect the necessary data for AI to be able to be effective, essentially? Because you can imagine if you've got a vehicle that you might be driving, and the vehicle doesn't have any sensors, but now you want to apply an AI tool to it. It has no data to do it with. It can't tell you anything. So what you need to make sure is the first step is to make sure that your operations is well instrumented, or that you can extract the data that you need from the various OEMs, which is the original equipment manufacturers that might be collecting the data, and get that data into at least an area we've got access to it and is well structured. Then you can start looking at applying AI potentially to uncover additional insights, additional reasons, but you still in many cases need to, if the AI tool has not been trained specifically for that use case or for that value chain, you would still need an expert to sort of understand, is this within the limits of what is physically possible, or theoretically possible, depending on what AI tool you use and how it has been trained. And AI tends to be a bit of a blanket, comment and function. It also depends on what type of AI you're talking about. If you're talking about machine vision, where you start looking at we can have a nice picture and then understand, with the picture we identify, this is Hurtmut, this is you, and you can even pick up sort of our movements, hand movements and stuff like that. Are we doing the right things in the right area, stuff like that. Right up to interpreting noise through sort of machine learning algorithms where you can identify if in the motor of a truck or front-end loader, if the noise is abnormal, and it's something that you need to then check with the motor that, hey, something's up with the motor, something's up with the system, and we need to go and have a look and see if we need to change something or adapt something. There's going to be some nice conversations that are going to be happening, not just today, but also tomorrow, around the use of AI, but also other technologies that will support it. So the key thing is data. You need the data to be able to use the AI tool. From what we've seen, at least on the exploration side, and again, we don't focus on exploration in CSIR, we focus specifically on mining extraction. But we look at just some examples that have been in the newspapers. You can actually enhance your exploration quite a bit using AI tools. You can either refine your discoveries, maximize your discoveries, or discover things that, let's say, maybe a human interpreting it would not have been able to identify as quickly.
So with that being said as well, I just want to get to the personal part of it. Do we have enough people who are experienced? And again, because now when the results were coming out, especially for next year 2024, the newspapers were writing about how universities are worried about the incoming students, that they do not have science and maths. So in the education part of it, how do we then, or how does the industry or South Africa make sure that the students currently who are in university, who are going into university, get the necessary skills so that they can make sure that when they go into the work environment, they have the skills, they have the knowledge to carry on that journey that South Africa is currently pushing.
It's a very interesting question. What I can talk about is what the CSIR, what I've seen the CSIR do and what we put in place and so on. So as you can imagine, CSIR is quite a technical environment. It supports a lot of what they call STEM subjects and so on. So the CSIR does is a few things. The CSIR in many occasions I've seen has offered bursaries.
Okay.
Either through the CSIR or through a partnership with the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, DSTI, who's our main shareholder. And those individuals that will get bursaries will typically be more focused on STEM type of subjects. So that is one aspect. As the CSIR, and that's even in my team, we do support internships for individuals through various programs. So one of there's two specific programs, and then there's an internal program. So one program that we support is the Yes Youth program, where we support individuals that are coming out of university, they're looking for some experience, and that's a national program, but we take in a cohort to introduce into our technical project environment and to support us from a day-to-day point of view. There's another program which is the Build program that we also support, again an internship, and that internship also we support. With our internal burses, we've got internal program which is the Graduate and Training Program, GIT. Those individuals are essentially given opportunity across the CSIR to work with the various teams to essentially understand where they fit in best, what do they like, and stuff like that, and where the opportunities are, and then at some point they would get all sorts of opportunities there. The challenge is obviously as the CSIR, we are not a fully funded government agency or state-owned entity. We have a smaller proportion of our funding that comes from government, and it's in the order of magnitude of, I think it's in the region of 20%. The rest of the funding comes from contracts, public sector, private sector, and so on, which means the CSIR needs to go out, execute work, develop research programs, and so on. It's quite exciting in the sense that it encourages us to work very closely with industries that we face. So we're very close. Now, the reason why I mention this is because there's a lot of CSIR alumni that are in the South African economy. So as much as our HR teams don't always like it when we lose individuals to the market, you can imagine we get people into our system. It's a very exciting, innovative environment. Individuals work there for 4 or 5 years, they gain the experience, they work with world-class individuals, and the market absorbs them. So that's part of what the CSIR, what I've seen holistically, how CSIR contributes towards the skills development and skills base. And CSIR is not a pure profit entity. It very much is balancing financial sustainability and balancing impact in the South African economy in the work that we do and the impact we try to have as an organization. It's a lovely organization.
It sounds so good, but unfortunately because of time where we are, it's time limited and time has come to the end, but I would love to have more conversation on this on a longer period of time, like
sure.
an hour, whatever.
I'll talk to you.
So we will have more conversation on the job done by CSIR in the mining industry and just continue the conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. It was so lovely, just a short span of time that we had, but I did enjoy the conversation. So thank you again for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mining Conversation with MsTedy. I am still joined by Hurtmut Brodner from the CSIR, and we are going to continue the conversation that we had. It was on Monday, right? Remember, we ran out of time because the time that we booked was just limited, but we felt that we needed to just continue with the conversation. So with our previous talk, we were talking about how CSIR is working on skills development or making sure that the people that come in, especially students, they have the necessary skills in order to do the work. So today I just want to also find out what have you noted in the changes that has happened since you've been employed by CSIR, especially as far as women are concerned, because we know that the mining industry is male-dominated.
So CSIR, in our specific case, in the mining team, we're quite fortunate in a sense that we've got a good percentage of females that work in the team. And it's driven by a few things. It's driven by the environment that we've fostered. It's driven by the employer of choice characteristics that the CSIR shows, and it's also driven by the values that we drive. An interesting bit of information and an interesting fact is that actually our executive for mining is a lady herself. My 2IC, my operations manager, my right-hand person is a lady as well, very competent. Like I said before, CSIR doesn't compromise on quality and competence. And we're very pleased to support women in mining as far as possible. But our core driver is competence and capability, and identifying high potential individuals, regardless of, sex, regardless of background and so forth. What I must mention though is that CSIR has a very strong transformation program and system in place, and that system has been very effective. We've got a very diverse team within mining, but also across CSIR. What's wonderful about that program is that in no instance have we ever compromised on quality and competence. So the individuals that have joined, the individuals that have been trained, regardless of background and regardless of any other sort of differentiators, have been well positioned, well set up for success. So CSIR is a shining light in my mind around transformation. It's a shining light in terms of giving individuals opportunity, and the working environment is very supportive of a high performance culture.
Okay. So just moving forward, we are at the Mining Indaba, and most of the talks speak of inclusivity, collaboration, technology, and with South Africa, I'm thinking such platforms or such conferences when they are held is specifically to make sure that the mining industry, not only in South Africa but around the world, does become better. That's why such conferences happen. So technology-wise, what will it take for the mining industry to be better in South Africa? Looking at the issues that we're still facing with some areas, they complain about dust still, and then we know that we have those mine dumps that are not properly closed off, which are causing issues such as zamazamas and stuff like that. But there's so many issues that we have in the mining industry. So technology-wise, what will it take in order for us to curb these problems that we are facing in the mining industry?
Look, I suppose from a mining team and the CSIR point of view, this is a big driver for us, where we are looking to work with the industry and support them with various technological as well as process-focused innovations to support them to be more efficient, to be more safe in terms of their operations, and be more sustainable. Now, a large portion of our function within the CSIR, from a mining team perspective, is focused on safety. I mentioned last time that we've got a testing and training facility that tests mine winder ropes to failure. We test self-contained self-rescuers, which essentially gives you additional oxygen underground whenever there's an emergency underground and there's no more breathable air. We do training for coal dust explosions in Kloppersbos, our facility in Paddesfontein. And then there's also from the team that I look after that looks at technical advisory, looks at technology development and so on. There's also a big focus on safety, and I can mention a few digital technologies that we've actually developed to support safety. So there's a technology that we've developed called the TMM Digital Twin. I think we're going to change the name. Everybody's using the word digital twin. But it's really a risk profiling tool for your open pit and underground type of operations, where you have people interacting with vehicles or vehicles interacting with vehicles and so on, to understand what the risks are in those environments. The second one is really looking at supporting underground geotechnical engineers with a platform that pulls in information from various other sources. So these are solutions that are quite specific. So we understand that it takes a whole ecosystem to support the improvement of the industry. So CSIR is one of those building blocks within that ecosystem, but a lot of our work goes towards safety. There's a lot of effort that goes into that. Yes, we also do sustainability. We've got a team within the CSIR that have sustainability experts. They some of them focus on sustainable ecosystems, some of them focus on biodiversity and so on. We actively help mines also with environmental impact assessments. So we are very active in those, but again, I say we contribute as much as we can, but we also recognize that there's an ecosystem that is required to support the mining industry. So in short, this is what we live and breathe. We try and help the mines be the best versions of themselves, and we really do try and support from a CSIR perspective.
Wonderful. So in closing, I just want you to speak to anybody, being a student or somebody who's in university, wanting to get into this career or have hopes of working for CSIR. What kind of people are you looking for? What will it take for them to work for CSIR? What should they study? What should they concentrate on? And just in closing.
Sure. So there's a few aspects you've touched on there. Let me maybe start with if I look at what you're going to study. If I was in the shoes of a graduate or someone that was choosing some sort of degree, I would be looking at doing just a little bit of research. It doesn't take too much time. Doing a little bit of research, either using Google or ChatGPTs or whatever the case is, to understand where the industry is going. Just that you have some context. And if you broadly look at where the industry is going, we're talking about autonomous or automated systems, heading towards autonomous systems. We're talking about more connected, data-driven operations. So if you just look at that, we're talking about devices, we're talking about data, we're talking about connectivity. So even if I just focus on that, there's already a hint towards, okay, if you look at STEM type of subjects, we look at electrical engineering, electronic engineering, we look at mechatronics, we look at mechanical engineering, there's obviously mining engineering related stuff. My biggest, if I was in the shoes of a graduate, let's say you've now graduated, I would be looking at trying to get any sort of experience that I can get that will give me the most technical input into my career. I would look at opportunities that could build me up technically as much as possible, because it will give you this good foundation once you start moving into more senior roles or if you move more into management roles. Any experience that you can get is valuable. I understand the employment environment currently is quite difficult because not all commodities are currently flourishing. Diamonds are currently struggling. PGMs is also limited at the moment. But these are all typically are cyclical. In other cases, there might be more structural issues in the market that inform the prices that we are seeing currently. But end of the day, what I would be looking at is, now if you're at university as well, look at your peers around you. These peers are going to end up in an industry that is similar to you, so either in mining or elsewhere. Don't forget that your peers around you are your network. Your network is your value. So if you're sitting next to someone and you're studying with them, if you've got a bunch of individuals in your class, put in the effort to get to know them. Put in the effort to at least have a decent or good relationship with those individuals, to a point where you can at least have a conversation around potential, engagements, or call a meeting or whatever the case is. You can never underestimate that. I think that's very important. Last thing, attitude is very important. We've had situations where, technically speaking, individuals have been on the exact same level, and the differentiator typically is your attitude. How do you apply yourself? How do you interact with others? What's your outlook? I would always suggest and recommend that you be positive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a very nice conversation. We managed to end it well. So thank you again for joining me. And that was Hurtmut Brodner from the CSIR, and we did touch on what CSIR is, what they do in the mining industry, and also he mentioned if you're wishing or hoping that you one day work for them, what would it take for you to be one of their best employees. With that being said, thank you and goodbye.